Hey, everybody, and welcome to the DLF Trade Show on the DLF YouTube channel. Russ and Addison are just super stoked and super exhausted. Okay, so I'm not even going to wait to say this because if I wait, I'll forget, because I think by now you've all realized how horrible our memory is once we start talking. We are getting really bad at thinking of ideas of what to do for these shows. So we want you to tell us what themes are you looking for? What specific players would you like to hear about? You know, give us some specific trades you want to hear some stuff about. We'll start compiling stuff and making shows. Especially we're in a bit of a dead zone until, you know, we start getting those real puff pieces like that. I look forward to. I look forward to getting those really, really best shape of his life kind of camp pieces, and then waiting a week and seeing how inflated their value still gets, because we still haven't learned that that's like almost an autocorrect at this point. Like it's an autofill. You type the BE and then best shape of his life, autofill. Okay, tab, go. The theme for today's show, which I learned about 40 seconds. Well, actually, I've been rambling for over 40 seconds already. For like 30 seconds before we hit the record button, is Elite by Highs. And I love this because at least the first guy on the list is someone I have been actively going after. So I'm very excited to see who else is on this list. And, you know, when we're talking buy highs, the first players that always come to our minds, because we play pretty much all Superflex, if not all, are quarterbacks. And the first person on the list is Lamar Jackson. And I'm super in on this. I don't know. So Lamar Jackson doesn't always seem to play to the top of his potential. I think it's more, the bigger problem was they've had such bad offensive play calling and then injuries happening that people, I think, just don't think Lamar's as good as he really is. And I'm fine with that. Because if that means I can get him for a price that I feel better about, I'm going to start doing that. And I have been trying. I've gotten one or two. I've tried for more, and I'm going to keep trying for more. And I love this where it's like, yeah, I think I would do that. I'm like, wait, I have at least one of those pieces in a league where I can go get Lamar, and it gives me ideas. So I hope it does the same for you. So let's jump in. 12-team Superflex. The first trade on the board is Lamar Jackson and Alvin Kamara for Anthony Richardson and Jordan Addison. Lamar coming in at 914, Alvin Kamara 115 for a total of 1029, Anthony Richardson 669, Jordan Addison 386 for a total of 1054. So Analyzer has this close, and I think it is, especially based on those values, that positional rankings. You're moving up 2 positional spots, and you're giving up Jordan Addison, who's, man, late first-ish at this point, you know, given the class that we have going right now. Like, I'm talking 2024 picks. 2025, I wouldn't want to make it look like it's hopefully not a playoff first. But again, that's very far away, and we have no idea how it's going to end. But still, if you're telling me I can go up to what people want Anthony Richardson to be, like, they hope he's Lamar Jackson, but I can have Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
For a guy that absolutely, like, assuming this is a start 9, start 10, Jordan Addison will probably sneak his way into your lineups probably every week. You know, the way with a worse quarterback, I kind of feel like they'll probably spread the ball around more, because it's either going to be I'm throwing to no one but Justin Jefferson, or they're going to make it wide open. Like, they're going to adjust the offense a bit to make everyone kind of open. So I feel like you're going to get wide receiver 3 weeks pretty much every week out of Addison, and maybe spike into some 2s. And we've seen the ceiling if, you know, Jefferson, not even going to say it out loud. Sorry.
Nope. Hawkinson is hurt right now, so he'll probably miss at least half the year.
There you go.
So that opens things up even more for Addison, that he doesn't have to compete with Hawk.
Thank you for the save. so I easily send these 2 for Lamar Jackson, and Alvin Kamara is still fine. You know, he's not what he was. Maybe the offense, like, nothing changed enough for me to feel optimistic about anything in that offense we didn't already feel optimistic about. Like, we've always been a little optimistic about Olave, so I'm good keeping that optimism. We were not very optimistic about Kamara last year, so there's no reason to start that now. But I still think he'll score plenty of points this season. Like, he'll be a fine RB2. Sure.
Yep.
So I love this. I love getting Lamar Jackson.
I just don't know how you don't pick Lamar Jackson on this one. Like, I can understand, like you said, how it's like if you are a really strong believer in Anthony Richardson and you're wanting to get younger, get another piece in Jordan Addison. Me personally, maybe Jordan Addison is not the best player that kind of bridges that gap. Maybe I want to move up a little bit. Maybe I want to enter like the DJ Moore, Michael Pittman kind of range of wide receiver, have a little bit more like weekly production, just in case Anthony Richardson doesn't turn into Lamar Jackson or Jalen Hurts or anybody like that. So it offsets a little bit of the risk on that.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just at the end of the day, it's Lamar Jackson at the same time. Like he was the QB3 in points per game last year, the QB7 in points per game last year, the QB7 in 2021, and then in 2020 that was the bad year. He was QB10. So, and then 2019, of course, was the MVP year. So he has been a top 10 fantasy quarterback for 4 years in a row.
Even was in that bad year where defenses literally said, we know what play they're going to run.
It's Lamar.
It's still Lamar. Like again, yes. Again, I get it from the other side. That doesn't mean I like it or want to do it, but I get it. I do think the person walks away from this getting Richardson and Addison and feels good about it. They will. Addison and I would not.
No, I want Lamar.
Yeah. This one gets very interesting. I love the pieces in this. Lamar Jackson for the 105, Kyle Pitts and Bryce Young. Lamar Jackson, 914. The 105 for 50, Kyle Pitts, 275. Bryce Young, 247 for a total of 971. I would like, just looking at these numbers, not even trying to see if they match what I feel of these players and picks. I want that number to be higher. Like 970 to 914 when it's a 3-for-1 doesn't feel great.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle Pitts to me is worth more than 275. I like Bryce Young, but the 250-ish is probably on par. Like I see multiple 111s for Bryce Young going through. Like I reject those offers because I'd rather have Bryce Young, but that's a me thing. I think it seems like that's around his value. So like we're pretty much talking the 105 and 2 mid to late firsts. Future almost because it's their values for Lamar Jackson, and that feels fine.
But Lamar Jackson.
Again, like if you're rebuilding, this is great. Again, at the 105, man, who cares if you're getting Pitts? At the 105, you're probably still getting Bowers. If this is any sort of tight end premium, you're going to end up choosing between May, McCarthy, and Bowers, and you'll feel pretty good sitting in that spot, which really just means trade back 2 more spots, let other people make the decisions and get a little something on top. All of that being said, I'd send this to get Lamar. Like this is the beautiful thing where if you have you have depth galore on your team and you're like, you know what, I'm ready to compete. I want to win. I need to consolidate some of this. So easily do I send these 3 pieces because the value, again, it seems fine. Honestly, it feels like it probably should be a little higher. And there's risk in every single one of those pieces. And we've seen that there's not much risk with Lamar. So at least, like, I know you're probably going to be the same as me. Like, the answer is Lamar. But do you feel better about this package than you do the earlier one?
No, I if I'm trading Lamar Jackson, I want the Anthony Richardson, Jordan Addison side because at least then I'm getting a quarterback that has the upside to be like a top 10, top 5 kind of guy, or is currently being valued as a top 10, borderline top 5 guy that maybe then I can trade away later. Like I've been coming around on Bryce Young. Maybe it's because I've been listening to you every single week talk about how much you love Bryce Young, but
love is a strong word. I believe he's good, and I hope that he will actually be good on the field. Love is a strong word. I apparently like him more than most people, but let's go.
Ahead of the market on him, and maybe that's pushing me up there that way. Pitts is a fantastic. He's a top 5 dynasty tight end. 105 is a really good pick, but it's all just, this whole entire time we're just talking about like, hopefully Bryce Young returns to form or is the player that we thought he was coming out of college. Hopefully that 1.05 pick isn't Trey Lance and it's actually more like Justin Herbert or somebody at the quarterback position. Hopefully Kyle Pitts returns to what he was as a rookie with Kirk Cousins and a better offense. A lot of hopefullys, a lot of ifs, a lot of maybes, a lot of pleases. It's just take Lamar Jackson. This is very similar to a trade that I was just talking about with somebody in our Discord channel who said that he was offered to trade away Joe Burrow for Baker Mayfield, Saquon Barkley, and the 106.
Oof.
And I basically said the same exact thing where I was like, that's a really steep drop down from, Burrow to Baker at the quarterback position. I love Saquon Barkley, but you're talking about a 27-year-old running back like that. There's risk there.
Yep.
And then the 106 is the same thing. I mean, it's basically the same pick. It's either going to be Mayer, McCarthy, or Bowers.
Yeah.
Then who knows what goes on with that. So just the way that I play, I'm not mortgaging elite quarterbacks in order to make these kind of moves. I'd much rather do it in the opposite direction and pay that to go get an elite quarterback to just, basically be done at that position and not have to think about it for the next 10 years, basically, whether that's Lamar, whether it's Burrow, Kyler, anybody like that. I'd rather be on the side getting the elite quarterback.
Let's see who you got now. Ooh, Breece Hall. Yeah, you're right. I am going to like these players. Hold on. Like talking about these guys I like playing, the sweater isn't necessary anymore. Hold on. Let's get a little too heated thinking about this.
We love Breece Hall.
We love Breece Hall. Top 3 running back. Like I've stopped trying to rank the top 3. Like to me, I say that Bijan is the one almost by default at this point. I don't know if I really even feel that way. It could be 2 games into the season and Bijan does what Bijan is supposed to do, and then I'll be like, yep, no, never mind. Bijan won. But you can tell me any order of Bijan, Breece, or Gibbs, or your running back one, and I'll just be like, okay.
That's my specific order, the way you just said it. But
Bijan, Breece, Gibbs.
Again, they're all basically.
Again, I think that's my order too, but like I don't think I care enough. So maybe it's a tier as opposed to an order.
Yeah.
All right, so let's see what we got. 12-team Superflex. Breece and the 112 for the 103. Caution, Team A is giving up the highest value asset and the most pieces in the deal. I think that might be spicy. Breece Hall over the 103.
I was surprised to see that it was like a 60, 70 point difference in favor of Hall, but I would probably put them pretty similarly.
Breece coming in at 656, the 112 at 196 for a total of 852. The 103 by itself, 595. So yeah, it's about a 60, 65 point difference. I'm trying to think in a world that would make me trade the 103 for a running back, and just the concept of that is breaking my brain. Like value-wise, this is I like Breece Hall in the 112 for the 103 because, like we said, they're pretty even in the first place. Mm-hmm. So adding the 112 to Breece feels nice. So even like that, you feel a little good coming off of a wide receiver, a quarterback, and not necessarily getting one back, though you could walk away with Nix or Penix if you want at the 112. Chances are I'd be taking Jonathan Brooks or Trey Benson or Brian Thomas Jr. if you fell one pick. It's even. Like I can't pick a side. I think in a reality situation, I probably just stick with the 103 and the young quarterback. But if I want to compete and I'm ready to go in now in May, I love Breece Hall in the 112 for the 103. But me personally, it's not a move I make.
You have to have a specific team where you don't need a quarterback at 103. Like even if you deservedly got the 1.03, you were the 3rd worst team in your league. Even if you still have, I think, multiple quarterbacks and at least one of them being like kind of like a stud guy, or maybe you have 2 kind of like fringe QB1s, or maybe you had Kyler and maybe that's why you didn't do well last year because Kyler missed in like 13 games or whatever. And then you also have like a Jordan Love or somebody like that. Like if you have those 2, you don't necessarily need the quarterback at the 1.03. And so maybe you're thinking, I'm just going to take Malik Neighbors, but I would take Breece Hall over Malik Neighbors. And then, like you said, you get the shot at the 112, who could be, Brian Thomas Jr., that could be Jonathan Brooks, that could be Keon Coleman or Xavier Leggett or Ladd McConkey, whoever you want there. It could be Bo Nix as well, too. If you still want to take the shot on a quarterback, that's been Nix's ADP right around that 112 spot as well. So I think you just get a really, really good upside shot on somebody at the 112. It's obviously not somebody that we're very secure in terms of like Odunze or Bowers or anybody like that, but it's still going to be a very, very good player to go along with Breece Hall. So while I like this trade a lot, and I think that in a vacuum, I would always take Breece Hall in the 112 over the 1.03. It still has to be like a very, very specific team for me to be able to do this. Like I'm looking at this dude's team right now who traded away the 1.03, and his quarterbacks are Goff, Baker, and Purdy, which I'm kind of like, okay, like I guess maybe you didn't see a need at quarterback, but still, like I don't think Jaden Daniels would have hurt. And he has Amon-Ra. He took Lad McConkey at the 112. Has Calvin Ridley. So like he has like an okay team, and now you have Breece Hall with Kenneth Walker and Derrick Henry. So
yeah, so
like
they're making a push. Yeah.
There are pieces here to make a push, and you're still young enough in a lot of areas to be good. But this specific team, I feel like I just probably would have taken Jaden Daniels. But I feel like there are a lot of teams out there that still probably would be happy taking Breece Hall in the 112 here.
All right, but here's a big boy. 12 team, 1 quarterback. All right, that makes it a little less big boy. Breece Hall and Brock Purdy for Jackson Smith and Jigba, a 25 first, Ty J. Spears, and the 212. All right, never mind. There's a lot of not great in there. Breece Hall, 795. Brock Purdy, 194 for a total of 988. JSN, 419, a 25 first, 291. Ty J. Spears, 120. The 212, 119 for a total of 949. So we're 2 for 1, more or less, because it's 2 for 4. And the 4 side is lower in the analyzer, which is a little rough. I'm getting myself excited about JSN. Like I always have been. I've always really, really liked the player, and I always knew that year 1 wasn't going to be his thing. And then they switch offenses to a 3 wide receiver set. Again, what I've read, what I've heard from their offensive guys, he plays a base 3 wide receiver set, which even though they brought back Tyler Lockett, means JSN will get on the field, which he didn't nearly as much as needed or should have.
It was the Washington offense that made, obviously Odunze was great, but then you also had Jalen Polk and Jalen McMillan. So I think both of those guys were over 900, if not one of them was over 1,000 as well. So
there you go. And not to mention, I think JSN is better than all of them, those guys.
Yes.
The 25 first, 25, the first, even in 1 QBs were pretty good this year, even though towards like the end of the first, you started seeing some of the quarterbacks come off the board anyway. And I know there's a lot of good running backs coming out next year, but I feel like if you don't get a top 5-ish pick next year in a 1 QB, it's going to feel a little iffy. Well, very iffy. To me, this is Breece Hall, and not super difficultly. JSN in a first is not enough for me to give up Breece in general. And while I like Ty J. Spears as a dart throw this year, that's all it really is. Like when someone brings in a veteran running back who has produced, you usually think that's who they're going to lean. And well, I do think Spears will still get a decent workload because Pollard shouldn't be an every down back anyway. And plus they have very similar skill sets, and Spears might be faster at this point. I don't feel like I'm going to feel safe plugging Spears in every single week. And the 212 is insane dart throw territory. Otherwise, you get Breece Hall and a quarterback you feel good plugging in every week. Even though it's a 1 QB and it doesn't mean he has all that much value, chances are you'll feel fine plugging in Purdy every single week. Like he'll be top 12 pretty much every week.
Even if you took Brock Purdy out of this trade, I'm still very easily taking Breece Hall.
Yeah, it helps. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just not enough. I mean, Breece Hall, I'm so high on Breece Hall this year. Like I probably will have him ranked as my RB2 or 3 for like redraft purposes behind CMC. And then really it's a conversation between him and Bijan Robinson. But I am so in on Breece Hall that I legitimately think that he has a more than decent shot of finishing as the RB1 overall this year. RB1 overall after the Christian McCaffrey of the world.
Okay, thank you.
But yeah, like he's going to be so phenomenal. I'm so high on him that it's just, if you are truly contending and you have kind of all of these like mediocre kind of pieces, not to say that JSN is mediocre or the first is mediocre, but just kind of all these kind of whatevers and possibly pieces, just package all of that all together and go get yourself a guy that I think is going to be a top 3 fantasy producer this year in Breece Hall.
Ooh, all right. And now we're talking about Amon-Ra St. Brown, which I love. 12 team, 1 quarterback. Amon-Ra St. Brown. Wait, no, hold on. Amon-Ra St. Brown, tier 1 wide receiver for you?
Yes, he is the final wide receiver in tier 1. I do not have Marvin Harrison Jr. up there yet, but probably like by the end of September, he will be.
One game, and you're just like, yep, let's go.
Yeah, I'm just like, yep, he's Marvin Harrison Jr. But yeah, it's Jefferson, Lamb, Chase, Amon-Ra.
I mean, that's where I am too. I pretty much do have Marvin Harrison Jr. up there.
I
won't trade for him. Like, this is why I feel fine saying this, because I will not pay what it takes to get him right now. But I have him on one or two teams, and I'm not moving him for less than I would those other guys.
Yes.
So like I feel like I can say he's a tier 1 wide receiver for me, but it's very specifically reasoned why I will say that.
he's tier 1B, and then we start tier 2 with Puka and AJ Brown and Garrett Wilson.
Tier within a tier.
Yep, exactly.
Sub-tiered. So okay, Amon-Ra St. Brown and the 205 for Tyreek Hill, the 111, and Isaiah Pacheco. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 910, let's go. The 205, 149 for a total of 1059. Tyreek Hill, 709. The 111, 263. Isaiah Pacheco, 252. Not bad, for a total of 1225. So here we have a 3 for kind of 2, I guess, if you want to count the 205 as an asset in this deal. That again feels like a different tier of asset than the rest of them, and you're overpaying. Like, it's 1225 to 1059. Like, that's what it should be. Like, you should be overpaying to get the highest value asset. And even though Tyreek could very easily outscore Amon-Ra St. Brown, that 6 or 7 year age difference makes a difference.
For sure. Especially when Tyreek is like, oh, I might retire next year or something like that.
At the end of next year, that's the important part. We're still supposedly getting the 24 and 25 season.
Yes. And I'm sure he's going to be Tyreek for those seasons, but
yes,
it's when you have a 30-year-old wide receiver, and especially one who has already talked about retirement, that 6-year buyback is pretty important at the wide receiver position.
Yeah, and like, it's funny, Tyreek Hill is one of those tough value cases where he in the point scoring season, his value will be so much higher than it is right now, and it's all because of age. Because when he's producing, you don't care how old he is; you just want to win that championship. But now it's like, oh, a 30-year-old? Am I going to give up a 24-year-old stud wide receiver for a 30-year-old wide receiver? Probably not. Like, again, so his value is a little tricky, where it comes in at 709 in the calculator, but I don't think that's his value right now. Like, it's probably lower right now. Season comes around and it might as well be 900.
It's going to be like over 800. So like, he averages 709 for the year.
Yeah,
but that's 600 in the off season and 800 in season, and it's like
perfect. Love it. Exactly. Okay, so if this was the 111 in Superflex, I'd actually feel a lot better about this. If you could tell me, because again, the 111 to me is worthier Brian Thomas Jr., which means I'm getting the production from Tyreek and my youth and hope from a young wide receiver. And then I get Pacheco, who's a fine running back too. Like, again, if it was that 111, I would pretty easily be good with the Tyreek Hill side. But the 1QB 111, we're talking more along the lines of, I mean, I was almost at Ladd McConkey, but he was the super flex 112-ish. So like, he's probably even gone by then.
You're in more of like the Coleman, Leggett.
Yeah.
Maybe Jane Daniels is there for 1 QB.
And that doesn't feel so great. But regardless, I still think, like, I'm in a world where I'm in a 1 QB league and I see this trade go down, I'm good with it. Like, I don't think it's bad by any means.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like I know, like, the analyzer says that there's basically like a 200-point difference, but it still just doesn't feel like this is a trade that if you have Amon-Ra St. Brown, that you're just kind of like, yeah, I guess this is worth losing Amon-Ra, Like, you really have to be in, like, I am in win now mode for 2024. And I'm getting somebody who's going to score comparably to Amon-Ra, if not even more. I'm getting maybe a high-end RB2, back-end RB1 in Isaiah Pacheco. I'm getting a hopeful in the 111, a good rookie, like a good 6 or 7 pick upgrade from my 205 to go get another rookie. You have to be in really, really hardcore win now mode. Other than that, especially if you're rebuilding, this just doesn't feel like a move that I'd be really into making, to trade away Amon-Ra.
Yeah, like, if the 111's on the clock and there's a player that you like that fell, maybe again, it's unrealistic in a one quarterback, but like if Brian Thomas Jr. is sitting there at the 111, which is
absolutely
105, like, I go and I do this. I'm trying to go down a little bit, but the further I go down, I'm less likely to actually do it because like Trey Benson came to mind, but like, do I want Trey Benson and Isaiah Pacheco? Probably not really. But again, I don't want to make too many changes in this trade, and then it won't be this trade anymore. Like, there's specific things that my team can be like, and that could happen on the board in the rookie draft itself that would make me take this Tyreek Hill side. But it's Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yep.
Next, 12-team Superflex. Amon-Ra St. Brown for Justin Herbert, straight up. I need you to say, something first. I don't know what to do with Justin Herbert right now.
I'm taking Amon-Ra.
Like,
I am terrified of what the Chargers have planned for Justin Herbert this year. Absolutely terrified. And like, I understand the whole, like, he could be overly efficient, but I feel like he would need better weapons to be overly efficient. Like right now he's got Ladd McConkey, Josh Palmer, and Quentin Johnston. Like he lost Keenan, Mike Williams, Eckler, and Gerald Everett and just replaced them. Like, I am so terrified for what this Chargers team is going to be this year and what that's going to do to Justin Herbert production wise. Like the talent is there in spades. Like it's so obvious that Justin Herbert is one of the best quarterbacks in the league, but I'm so terrified that I will just take Amon-Ra St. Brown. Like if you removed the name Justin Herbert and I said this was Trevor Lawrence, would that push you more in towards Amon-Ra territory?
Oh yeah.
Or what if it was like Tua or
Amon-Ra.
Jordan Love?
Amon-Ra.
See, I feel like that's how we need to readjust our feelings and our values on Justin Herbert, because honestly, all three of those quarterbacks might outscore Herbert this year. That's how scared I am of him. Like he's valued as like a top 8 guy still, like in that Joe Burrow, ahead of Kyler Murray kind of range. And I just don't see it for this year.
Man, I'm far too high on Kyler. He's like QB 5 or 6 for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, me too. Like I would take Kyler over Amon-Ra, but I think that just shows the discrepancy between Kyler and Justin Herbert for us as well too. Yeah. I would take Joe Burrow over Amon-Ra.
Yeah.
I'd probably even take Richardson over Amon-Ra too. I feel like that's more of a conversation, but that's kind of where the line starts to be.
That would depend on what I feel the rest of the league values the two of them at.
Sure. But I would take Amon-Ra. Like, would you take Dak over Amon-Ra?
No.
So that's
the production might be there, but like the age and everything, I'll just, I think I'll have an easier time replacing Dak's production than I would Amon-Ra's when you take the fact that he's 24 into account. Like, it'll be easier. In 2 years, Dak's value is going to be next to nothing. But in 2 years, Amon-Ra's still a 26-year-old wide receiver.
What about Caleb? You taking Caleb?
Yeah,
I would take Caleb. but that's like
that is a line right there. Though.
Like you literally just watched us like make our rankings in our head.
Yep.
And like you saw where the line basically was that crossed from taking the quarterback to taking Amon-Ra, and Justin Herbert falls below that line for me at least.
Yeah, I think he does now too for me, which I hate. I really, really hate it because I really like Justin Herbert and I like the Chargers because their jerseys are pretty, and I like good football, but like they're going to turn him into a Shanahan quarterback, and that's boring for Herbert.
They're going to turn him into like Alex Smith.
Yeah.
No.
Which again is really good for efficiency's sake, but why with Herbert? Like they should have just traded him away for a haul.
Dude, they should have traded him to Minnesota. It would have been so fantastic for everybody involved.
Justin Herbert throwing to Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and TJ Hawkinson. I'd be a Vikings fan.
Stupid Harbaugh and Greg Roman.
Stupid Greg Roman, that's for sure. Well, on that note, this has been the DLF Trade Show on the DLF YouTube channel. Russ Fisher, Dynasty Outhouse, Addison Hayes at AmazeHayes_. We'll catch you next time.